Hey there, collectible connoisseur. Um, I've got a lot of sports cards, a lot. And I'm often asked, hey, Dave, what's your most valuable card? And so I wanted to make a brief video about that. I just received this card. Just purchased it recently. Of course, I've had the raw version of this card for years, but this is a PSA 7 of the 1979 Topps Pete Rose, and I count this as the most valuable card in my collection. Let me give you the reasons why. Number one, I have an affinity for guys that grew up in the greater Cincinnati area. And of course, Pete Rose is maybe the greatest baseball player from Cincinnati, with apologies to Ken Griffey Jr. Um, Two, I'm a child of the 70s, and in that time frame, uh, Pete Rose was the man. Not only just in greater Cincinnati, maybe even in baseball in general. Uh, the guy was a beast on the field. There's a lot that can be said about Pete Rose's character, uh, but very few will question uh, what he did on the baseball field. Maybe the best record that he holds is that he participated in the most winning games of any player ever. And then three, look at this card. I love the picture on this card. I don't know if you can picture it in your head. I certainly can picture it in mine. Pete Rose's crazy crouched over batting stance. This card shows him bursting out of that stance. You see a little bit of dust by his left foot. He's already angled up. He's going to hustle. He's in his backswing. He's going to hustle up the line. Maybe his helmet will fly off while he's running. His long Pete Rose haircut streaming behind him as he hustles up the line. Um, I, I I just think it's such a great image, and it evokes such an image of him as a player that I love this card. Um, the card also denotes that he was an NL All Star. I had to look this up, but I knew it already. Pete Rose was an all star at five different positions here in 1978. 1979 card shows the 1978 season. He was playing third base, but he was also an all star at second base, left field, right field, and then later in his career at first base. I think that in and of itself is a feat that won't ever be duplicated. Excellence at so many different positions, recognized as one of the best players, one of the best nine at least, in any given year. Um, Another reason why I like this card. This is the 1979 Topps. Pete Rose had quite a career even up to this point. He began his career in 1963. These statistics run through 1978, and that was the entirety of his first stint with the Cincinnati Reds. Of course, he came back a little bit later as a player manager, uh, but this was it. This was, in 16 years, it's quite a career. He's already amassed 3,000 hits. I don't know if you can see that down there, um, and a 310 lifetime batting average. But this is the Pete Rose that I choose to remember and treasure. And then lastly, what I really like about this card is it harkens, it makes me recall my childhood. In 1979, the summer of, I was 8 years old, wandering far and free around. I had some liberty, I had some quarters in my pocket, and I bought a lot of baseball cards. And as many packs as I bought, I never got this card. My little brother, who was 3 years younger than me, three and a half, but he was five during the summer of 1979, um, did get this card. And I'll tell you the truth, I offered him the moon. I, would have given away half of what I had to obtain this from him. I threatened him. I offered him good trades, bad trades. Uh, you know, Offered him, a lifetime of devotion, and he just wouldn't give it up. And I'll tell you the truth, it's probably the start of what has been a lifelong respect and admiration for the boy. Um, and I honored that. I really, really wanted this card, and I think maybe the reason why he never gave it up is that I really, really wanted it, and it gave him a measure of power over me. But um, I have such good memories of trying to engineer a swap with him, and I have such good memories of maybe it being one of the first things that I truly wanted to strive after. It was right there in the room next door, but just out of my grasp, and still, trying to get my own copy by buying pack after pack after pack and not getting it. Um, and for all those reasons, uh, this is the most valuable card. Certainly, it's not the most expensive card in my collection, but this is so evocative for me, and carries such a degree of sentiment in so many different ways. This is it, the most valuable card in my collection.